Hello, welcome to Should I Buy This Game, featuring the Isle of Cats Explore and Draw. My name is Christine, and in this video I'll give you a brief description on how the game is played, and then share a few things I may like or dislike about the game to help you decide if you want to add the Isle of Cats Explore and Draw to your collection. This is the Isle of Cats Explore and Draw, and this is a flip and write version of the main game, the Isle of Cats, which I've shown you in a previous video, and I will put a link in the description below. To set up the game, everybody gets a lesson card, a player mat, their own set of markers, and then you set up the cards in the center. And there's a diagram in the book telling you where the cats deck versus the lessons deck goes. And here the green is the cats and the blue is the lessons deck. And you set up your cards for everyone to see. Everybody plays the game at the exact same time. And what you do is you're going to pick a column. So column A, B, C, or D. And you're going to do everything in the column. So if you picked A, you'd be adding 2 orange cats and a purple cat to your player mat. This one, you would add the green, the purple, as well as any 2 of these common treasures. This row, you're adding a red cat and an orange cat. But if you're choosing a lesson, that's where your lesson card comes in. It's lesson 7. So you would just put a dot at lesson 7, and at the end of the game, you would score 3 points per family. And here's another lesson card. So you would do the same thing if you chose this row, and you'd be adding a purple cat or the Oshax cat, which can be any color you would like. So when I say you're adding a cat to your board, you're drawing the shape of the cat, and then I like to just color it in a little with some lines so I know that there was an orange cat there. And what I like to do is down below, every time I add a cat, I put a little marking, because sometimes you get confused at the end of the game how many cats you had. So each time I add one, I put a little mark to know how many I have in each of my families. Now, when you're adding a common treasure like here, you put a C. You use black and you put a C. Whereas if you're adding a rare treasure like here, I put an R and it's still in black. So the colors, the green and the orange, purple, blue, and red, those are all cats on my board. And the black is treasures with either common or rare. Now down here, you can do 3 of these items. So there's 5 to choose from, and during the game, you can choose 3. And so it's choose 1 additional card from any other column, choose 1 card from each row instead of a column, choose a row instead of a column, draw your next cat twice, or draw your next treasure twice. So those are bonuses that everybody can do, and you're allowed to do 1 per round to a maximum of 3 during the entire game. On this side, it's where your scoring is. So as I mentioned, I like to put my little marks to make it easier at the end to add up my score. I ended up with 3 rooms. I was 1 square. I missed to completing that room, but the rooms are the little moons, the apple cores, the little wheat symbols, and then here we have birds on either end, and then the open space is a room as well. And it gives you how many you score on the side for your rooms. It's -1 for rats. And then the lessons, you refer back to your card to see what you had. I did not fulfill my lesson, so I didn't get any points for my board. But that is how you're filling in your board based on the cards. And at the end of every round, the cards will go away and you'll put 12 new cards down to play. And as I mentioned, it's over 7 rounds. So typically I play this game solo. And when I say I play it solo, I don't actually play with the solo cards. I just play the game and score it myself. I don't worry about whether I won or lost against a solo mode. So this is the first time I actually played with somebody. And the reason why I like to play it solo is that it's a lot easier to set up when you're playing by yourself than the main game of the Isle of Cats. It's just some cards. I'm not dealing with all the pieces. The other thing is that with the 7 rounds, you actually get enough choices, enough turns that you actually fill a lot of your board. I have these open spaces here, but it was getting really hard to put different shapes in there. Whereas Mark did his board a little differently, working across, and he only had really the ends and then a few odd open spaces in the middle of it. But you can really fill up your board with 7 rounds during the game. And the other interesting thing I find is, even though everyone's playing at the same time, by choosing the different columns that you want to use, you can see how the two of us have completely different ways of going with the challenges and setting up our boards. So even though you're playing with the same cards, everyone will come out with a different outcome. Now, as much as I like playing this game solo, if I'm playing with somebody, I actually prefer to play the actual Isle of Cats game. I prefer it in a multiplayer mode. Now, the other thing I find is sometimes here it's really hard to separate the cats when you've got to count them. And that's why I mentioned earlier, we put little marks down for each of our cats, so we knew at the end without having to figure it out again. And the other thing we find is, especially with the cards and near the end of the game, although you have these bonuses that you can do things, if you don't save them till the end of the game, you're like really trying to be like, I need this card, but I need this card, but that's a good scoring card, but that purple card would fit in. And so I would recommend saving at least one bonus for the end of the game, just to give you some flexibility on the cards available. So you can try and fill in these spaces and you don't end up with just one there that you weren't able to score. But overall, if you're looking for a solo game, I would recommend the Isle of Cats Explore and Draw. It's really fun to play and it doesn't take that long, especially when you're playing by yourself. So let me know in the comments if you've played this game and what you think of it.